Hello, welcome to FRB Responsibility Maze. Hi, Stuart. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Oh, good, thanks.
Okay, so we're going to give ourselves a 10-minute, 15-minute blast, and we're going to be talking about metrics and metrics gone wild. And the idea here is that we look at what can be disguised as a maze. How do we take a complex subject, look at the different responsibilities, different stakeholders, and then find our way out of the maze? So you've now got 10 minutes to find your way out of the maze. Go. No, okay. So what we will do is we'll start to look at some of the stakeholders, etc., and some of the elements that would be involved in a maze. So Maria, you proposed this topic. So describe to us metrics gone wild. What are you really? I think you're thinking about NPS in particular, aren't you?
For this particular episode, yeah, I am. But I just, with the thrust towards being more data-driven business, I think metrics gone wild as a theme is going to be reoccurring in our conversations. So I thought NPS actually could be a really good start point for us to start looking around some of the sort of responsibility complexities. NPS is it's been with us for 20 years. Certainly the last 10 years, the adoption has gone wild. I think most of the Fortune 1000 companies in the US now use NPS as a metric, a key metric in their business, informing their strategy. So the interesting thing for me with NPS is around how companies get into a situation where they are using an NPS target or increase to fill out their own business strategy and for their customers, and B, start to incentivize employees through bonuses or like some sort of external financial reward.
Okay, so
those are the interesting elements for me.
Okay, so let's focus this on NPS becoming a bonus structure for an organisation. I think that's what you're getting at. So, okay, so this is a good thing to debate. Should companies do this? Should they embed NPS to such an extent where it's in the balanced scorecard for people, and the whole company starts to be rewarded on the NPS score? So, okay, let's kick this around and see where we get to. Stuart, what are your thoughts on the dilemmas here?
Well, I guess the dilemma is I guess, on the pro side, there's great science that demonstrates that companies that generate great customer experience, great customer satisfaction, generate higher profits in the same sectors than those that don't. So I guess, why wouldn't you want to incentivize / reward your employees on that premise? I think is a sensible thing. But actually, I've seen it where it's been implemented terribly in the way that employees become completely overcompensated based off of some NPS being a classics, and it's not absolutely clear exactly often how that is actually calculated. But even if you are clear and you overcompensate, it all becomes about the money rather than the ethos and philosophy of doing the right thing for your customers. And actually, I have actually worked in one business where I asked an employee why customer experience was so important, and they said because it has the biggest factor on my bonus, and therefore I immediately removed the whole bonus structure. Because all they were worried about was money, and they actually didn't really care too at all about what they did for their customers. And actually, you've got to say there's a real fine line to draw on this one. I think and I guess that's the dilemma.
And it's interesting, Steve, we've only been doing this for 5 minutes, and already we've said do the right thing, and doing that right thing can be so difficult to describe, can't it? I've also to add to that, I've seen lots of situations where nobody really believes the accuracy of the NPS score. and that undermines it. There are a few people, especially in some larger organisations, some big telcos, etc., and there are key people, and I'm afraid they're usually running the score, and they're working in perhaps a head office environment where they believe in its accuracy, but nobody else does. They see the flaws in it, and that's not anything to do with NPS itself. That's to do with the way it's run, the way it's implemented, and that sort of undermines everything. So if you're then going to put people's bonus apply to NPS, then you straight away, people are doing things that they know on, to pick up on your theme, Stuart, that are not in the best interests of customers, but do move on the NPS score. So it's another problem.
Carl, in those conversations that you've had, do those employees feel like they have control over the NPS score? Like, do they feel like they can influence it by their actions, or is it out of their control?
So that's a very good question, Maria. Some people, it's out of their control, and they say that that's a problem for them. Others can control it, but you've just hit the nail on the head. They can control it. That doesn't mean that customers have to have a better experience. They can control the Net Promoter Score, and as we know, there are lots of different ways of doing that. So it becomes a really difficult situation. And would we put if I was in charge of a fairly sizable company, would I consider putting NPS in to the extent where people are bonused on it? I'd have to really think about it, and I have to really, I guess, try and implement it until it's accurate and people have faith in it before you could even consider putting it as a bonus. Stuart, your thoughts?
Yeah. Likewise, I think people who do have customer experience in one form in their balanced scorecard, I think where it's implemented well is not NPS. It's not the answer, right? And many companies create a customer index, which is made up of a number of factors that is a much better all-rounded measure of actually how they are satisfying customers and delivering great customer experience, rather than it being just a one-off, something that can be falsified Net Promoter Score. And actually, depending on what you're selling and what services you're selling, customers may or may not promote regardless. So actually, NPS can be a pretty flawed measure in some instances. So actually taking a broad approach to customer experience and using that as part of a balanced scorecard approach, fantastic, right? I would question whether NPS and NPS alone is the right measure.
Maria?
Well, I kind of think NPS, I don't want to do NPS a disservice, because I think it's done a lot of companies a lot of good over the years. Has it been the score, or has it been the insights that are yielded underneath the score, right? So if, like you, Carl, if I was to put this into my own business, I'm reminded of the, I think it's Goodhart's law that says, when the measure becomes a target, it stops being a good measure. And if the measure becomes the target, if the score becomes the target, what are you then measuring? And would it be better perhaps to incentivize people on the action, on the insights that NPS brings, rather than necessarily the score itself, which is an output of the actions that you take?
So I'm old enough to remember when a Net Promoter System was brought into effect. It's not even supposed to be a score. And it's a good thing. It was, that recommendation is a good thing, but I guess it's how it's being used. There may be occasions where people are going to be listening to this that have NPS in, or they're being put under pressure, or they want to bring it in, and then you're into the big debate about what the responsible thing to do is with Net Promoter Score. And they're those conversations that we're getting involved in and helping people with. What do you do with it, and what don't you do with it? And as we talk about the maze, it's all you have a problem, you have a situation. How do you find your way out? And it's about finding that balance. I think that's what I'm hearing from you two guys, is about that balance of how you use that, not necessarily make it the whole thing, not make it the whole meaningful, the whole what's the word I'm looking for? the whole driver of customer satisfaction. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Good 10 minutes on NPS. So we're back. I think we're going to do more metrics, but we're going to do some other subjects. If people want us to tackle a different subjects on these mazes, then by all means, give us a shout.